Jaden Miller was 28 years old and lived in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a young Black man with a captivating smile and a heart full of dreams. He worked as a project manager at a tech company and was engaged to Kendra, his college sweetheart. They lived in a cozy apartment in the West End neighborhood, known for its cultural diversity. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and Jaden was in the kitchen making breakfast. Kendra walked in, still sleepy but smiling. "Good morning, love. Did you sleep well?" Jaden asked while frying eggs. "I did, and you?" "It smells great," Kendra replied, hugging him from behind. "I slept well too. We've got a busy day ahead. How about we go to the park after brunch with my parents?" Kendra nodded, excited. "I love that idea. It's been a while since we saw your folks." Later that day, Jaden and Kendra met his parents, Samuel and Linda Miller, at a charming cafe in downtown Atlanta. Samuel, a 55-year-old retired Army man, had a strong presence and a hearty laugh. Linda, an elementary school teacher, was the quiet strength of the family, always offering support and wise advice. "You both look great," Samuel said, hugging Jaden and Kendra. "How are the wedding plans coming along?" "We're making good progress, Dad. There's still a lot to do, but we're excited," Jaden replied as they sat down at the table. Linda smiled at Kendra. "If you need help with anything, we're here." "And how's work, Jaden?" "It's going well, Mom. We just closed a big deal with a software company. I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops." The conversation flowed easily, full of laughter and stories. After brunch, Jaden and Kendra decided to spend the rest of the day at Piedmont Park, one of their favorite spots to relax and enjoy nature. Sitting on a bench, watching children play and joggers pass by, Jaden held Kendra's hand. "Sometimes it feels like life is perfect, doesn't it?" Kendra smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. "Yes, it does. We're so lucky to have each other and a wonderful family. I can't wait to see what the future holds." The afternoon passed quickly, and as night fell, they decided to head home. On the way back, Jaden talked about his future plans. He wanted to start his own tech company one day, help the community, and create opportunities for talented young Black people. "You'll achieve all that, Jaden. I believe in you," Kendra said confidently. "Thank you, my love. With you by my side, I feel like I can conquer the world," Jaden replied, kissing her forehead. They arrived home, tired but happy. As Jaden got ready for bed, he couldn't shake the feeling of contentment. Life was good, and he was excited about the bright future ahead. Little did he know that soon, a tragic event would change everything, testing his resilience and challenging his faith in justice and equality. The following week started like any other. Jaden was immersed in his work, coordinating teams and ensuring projects stayed on track. On Friday, he received a message from his longtime friend, Marcus, inviting him to meet downtown to discuss a potential business partnership. "Hey Jaden, let's meet at the Varsity tonight. I have some ideas I'd like to share with you about the startup I'm planning," the message read. Jaden quickly replied, "Sure, Marcus. I'll be there at 7 p.m. Let's do it." Later that evening, Jaden went home to change and told Kendra about his plans. "I'm meeting Marcus at the Varsity. He has some business ideas to discuss. Do you want to come with me?" Jaden asked, grabbing his jacket. "No, love. I'm going to take the chance to relax at home and do some reading." "Have fun and tell me all about it when you get back," Kendra replied, kissing him goodbye. Jaden smiled and left the house, feeling excited about the prospect of new opportunities. He drove along the busy I-85 towards downtown, unaware of what was about to happen. When he arrived at the Varsity, he found Marcus already waiting at a table in the corner. They greeted each other warmly and began discussing ideas and possibilities with enthusiasm. "I really believe we can make a significant difference in the community with this startup, Jaden. I want to focus on tech education for young Black kids. What do you think?" Marcus asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. I think it's a fantastic idea, Marcus. We need more initiatives like this. I'm in. Jaden responded with equal enthusiasm. After a few hours of discussion and planning, Jaden looked at his watch and realized it was late. I need to go, man. Kendra will start to worry. But let's continue this conversation over the weekend, all right? Definitely, Jaden. Let's make this happen, Marcus said, shaking Jaden's hand firmly. Jaden said goodbye to Marcus and headed back to the parking lot. As he drove home, he reflected on the possibilities that the new partnership could bring. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted when he suddenly saw a car speeding across the road. The impact was immediate and devastating. The sound of metal crashing and glass shattering filled the air. Jaden lost consciousness for a moment and, when he came to, he felt intense pain in his arm and leg. He looked around and saw that other cars were involved in the accident. At least 6 people were injured, including him. Chaos erupted at the scene. People were screaming, trying to get out of the wrecked cars. Jaden managed to open his car door with difficulty and fell onto the asphalt, feeling the pain intensify. He tried to stand up, but his strength was fading. Soon after, the sound of sirens filled the air. Paramedics and firefighters arrived quickly, but Jaden noticed something strange. The rescuers were prioritizing the white victims, while he and other black victims were being neglected. Please help me, Jaden pleaded, but the paramedics only gave him quick glances and continued working on the other victims. A black woman, who was lying near Jaden, was also trying to get the paramedics' attention. We're hurt. We need help, she shouted desperately. Jaden looked around and saw the panic and pain on the faces of the black victims who, like him, were being ignored. Indignation began to grow within him, mixed with physical pain. Finally, a young paramedic, who seemed new on the job, approached Jaden. We'll help you, sir. Hang in there, he said, as he began administering first aid. Thank you, Jaden murmured, feeling a mix of relief and anger. He knew what was happening was wrong and that this injustice couldn't be ignored. As he was taken to the ambulance, he promised himself that he would fight for justice, not just for himself, but for all the victims who were overlooked because of their color. That night, as he was admitted to the hospital, Jaden knew his life would never be the same again. Jaden woke up in the hospital, a mix of pain and confusion washing over him. By his side, Kendra was holding his hand, her eyes full of worry. He tried to move, but a sharp pain in his arm and ribs made him groan. Jaden, don't move too much. You're hurt, Kendra said softly. What happened? Jaden asked, his voice hoarse. There was an accident. Your arm is broken and you have a few fractured ribs, but you're going to be okay. You were very lucky. It could have been much worse, Kendra replied, squeezing his hand. Jaden closed his eyes for a moment, trying to recall the details. The memory of the rescuers' discrimination hit him hard, bringing a wave of anger and indignation. He knew he needed to talk about it. Kendra, the paramedics, they didn't help us. They ignored me and other black people. They were prioritizing the white victims. It was horrible, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Kendra looked at him, shocked. Are you sure? That's unacceptable. We need to do something about it. Later that day, Jaden received a visit from his parents. Samuel and Linda were visibly worried but relieved to see their son conscious and, despite his injuries, relatively okay. Jaden, we're so happy you're all right. It was such a scare, Linda said, holding Jaden's hand. Thanks, Mom. Dad, I need to talk to you about what happened at the accident scene, Jaden began, explaining in detail the discrimination he had witnessed. Samuel frowned, anger flashing in his eyes. That's outrageous, Jaden. We can't let this slide. We will seek justice. That same night, Jaden got a call from Marcus, his friend who had been with him at the varsity before the accident. "Jaden, how are you? I heard about the accident." "I'm so relieved you're okay," Marcus said, his voice full of concern. "I'm all right, Marcus. But I need to tell you something important. The paramedics, there was racial discrimination. They ignored us. We need to do something about it," Jaden explained. Marcus was silent for a moment, processing the information. "That's unacceptable, Jaden. We will fight this. I'll contact some civil rights lawyers. We can't let this go unpunished." In the following days, news of the accident and the paramedics' discrimination began to spread. Jaden and other Black victims started sharing their stories with the media, generating a wave of public outrage. Civil rights organizations got involved, offering support and resources to ensure justice was served. A renowned civil rights lawyer, Elijah Thompson, reached out to Jaden. "Mr. Miller, I've heard about your case, and I'm here to offer my help. What happened was a clear violation of your rights, and we will fight to hold the responsible parties accountable," he said firmly. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate all the support you can give us. This can't happen again," Jaden replied, feeling a new hope grow inside him. As the formal investigation began, Jaden and his fellow victims knew they were just at the start of a long battle. But with the support of family, friends, and the community, they were determined to seek justice and ensure that racial discrimination did not go unnoticed or unpunished. The city of Atlanta was in an uproar. News of the paramedics' racial discrimination during the car accident dominated the headlines. Support for Jaden and the other Black victims grew, while pressure mounted on the authorities to take action against those responsible. Jaden, still recovering in the hospital, received a steady stream of visitors and messages of support. One day, while resting, a group of local activists, including civil rights leaders and community members, came to visit him. "Jaden, we're here to support you and make sure your voice is heard," said Maya Richards, a well-known civil rights activist in Atlanta. "What happened to you and the other victims is unacceptable, and we're here to fight by your side." Jaden felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Maya. I appreciate all the support you're giving us. We can't let this continue to happen." As the community mobilized, the accident victims, including Jaden, began organizing their own meetings to discuss how they could use their experiences to promote change. They decided to form a coalition called Justice for All, dedicated to fighting racial discrimination in emergency services and promoting equal treatment for everyone. One afternoon, during one of these meetings, Jaden shared his ideas with the group. "We need to ensure that what happened to us doesn't happen again. We will push for proper training for first responders, clear non-discrimination policies, and accountability for those who fail to treat all patients equally." The group agreed and began planning their next actions. They decided to organize a large demonstration in front of Atlanta City Hall, inviting the media and the community to join them. On the day of the demonstration, hundreds of people gathered with signs and banners, chanting slogans and demanding justice. Jaden, still recovering, made sure to be there, supported by Kendra and Marcus. He climbed onto the makeshift stage and looked out at the crowd, feeling the energy and support around him. "Thank you all for being here today," Jaden began, his voice strong despite the physical pain he still felt. "We are here to demand justice, not just for us, the victims of this accident, but for all people who have been discriminated against and treated unfairly. We cannot accept that lives are put at risk because of the color of their skin." The crowd applauded, and Jaden continued. "This is just the beginning. We will keep fighting until real changes are made. We are here to ensure that everyone receives the fair and equal treatment they deserve." The demonstration gained national media attention, bringing even more focus to the case and putting pressure on the authorities to act. The formal investigation into the behavior of the paramedics progressed, and the evidence of discrimination became increasingly irrefutable. With the growing public pressure and accumulating evidence, Atlanta authorities announced that the paramedics involved in the incident would be suspended pending the investigation. This news was met with a mix of relief and determination by Jayden and his fellow victims. Elijah Thompson, the civil rights lawyer representing Jayden and the other victims, was tireless. "We have a solid case, Jayden. The discrimination is clear, and we will ensure that justice is served. We are going to sue the city and the emergency services for civil rights violations." Jayden agreed, feeling the weight of the moment. "We're ready to fight, Mr. Thompson. We'll do this for us and for everyone who has been wronged." As the legal process advanced, the community continued to show its support. Jayden and the members of the Justice for All coalition organized workshops and lectures on racial discrimination and equality, educating and mobilizing the public. Jayden's story became a symbol of resistance and courage. During one of these lectures, Jayden shared his experience and his hopes for the future. "This accident changed my life in many ways, but it also gave me a new mission. We will keep fighting for a fairer and more equal system for everyone." The fight for justice intensified, but Jayden was determined to see change happen. With the support of his family, friends, and community, he was prepared to face any challenge, knowing he was on the right side of history. The city of Atlanta was buzzing. Jayden's story and that of the other car accident victims had mobilized the community in an unprecedented way. Civil rights movements, community organizations, and ordinary citizens had united to support the cause of justice for all. One afternoon, Jayden and Kendra were invited to a community meeting at the local cultural center. Upon arrival, they were greeted with applause and words of encouragement. Community leaders like Maya Richards were there to discuss the next steps in the fight against racial discrimination in emergency services. "Jayden, you have become a symbol of resilience for many of us," Maya said, hugging him warmly. "We need to hear your ideas on how to keep pressing for change." Jayden took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Thank you, Maya. I think the first thing we need to do is ensure this fight doesn't lose momentum. We need continuous actions, peaceful protests, and constant media involvement to keep the pressure on the authorities." An elderly man raised his hand. "I'm James, 65 years old, and I've lived in Atlanta all my life. I've seen many injustices, but seeing the youth rise up like this gives me hope. How can we help?" Jayden smiled, touched by the question. "James, we need everyone's support. Join the protests, write to local representatives, share our stories on social media. Every small action counts." By the end of the meeting, the community was more united and determined than ever. Jayden felt a wave of hope and gratitude as he realized how powerful solidarity could be. Meanwhile, the initial hearings for the lawsuit against the city and emergency services were being scheduled. Elijah Thompson, the civil rights lawyer, was confident. "We're making progress, Jayden. The evidence is on our side, and public pressure is forcing the authorities to act." Kendra, always by Jayden's side, was a pillar of support. "We're with you, Jayden. We're going to win this battle together." That night, as Jayden and Kendra walked through their neighborhood, they reflected on the journey they were on. "Sometimes, I still can't believe all this is happening," Jayden said. "But seeing the community come together like this gives me the strength to keep going." Kendra held his hand lovingly. "You're stronger than you think, Jayden. And you're not alone in this. We have an entire community behind us." Kendra's words resonated deeply with Jayden. He knew the fight was just beginning, but with the support of his family, friends, and community, he was more determined than ever to see justice prevail. As the judicial process began, the tension rose. The initial hearings were scheduled, and Jayden, along with the other victims, prepared to give their testimonies. Elijah Thompson worked tirelessly to build a solid case. In court, Jayden looked around, seeing familiar faces in the audience. Kendra, Marcus, his parents, and members of the Justice for All coalition were present to support him. He felt a wave of nervousness, but also determination. When it was his turn to testify, Jaden took a deep breath and began recounting the events of the day of the accident. I remember seeing the paramedics arrive and feeling a momentary relief, thinking we would finally receive help. But I soon realized they were prioritizing the white victims, leaving us, the black victims, behind. The physical pain I felt was accompanied by an even greater emotional pain, realizing the discrimination that was happening. The judge and jury listened attentively as Jaden described his experience, his words resonating in the courtroom. Elijah presented compelling evidence, including communication records and testimonies from other victims and witnesses. The days of hearings were intense. The defense witnesses tried to justify the actions of the paramedics, but the evidence of discrimination was clear. Jaden's case was gaining strength, and the media continued to cover every development, keeping the public informed and engaged. After weeks of testimonies and presenting evidence, the trial finally concluded. The victims and their lawyers anxiously awaited the verdict. Jaden held Kendra's hand, feeling a mixture of hope and nervousness. Finally, the judge entered the courtroom and announced the verdict. After careful consideration of the evidence and testimonies, this court finds the paramedics guilty of racial discrimination and negligence in performing their duties. A sigh of relief swept through the room. Jaden felt tears of relief and gratitude streaming down his face. "We did it," he whispered to Kendra, who hugged him tightly. The courtroom victory was a significant milestone, but Jaden knew the fight was far from over. They had taken a significant step toward justice, but there was still much to be done to ensure lasting changes in the system. With the court victory, attention turned to implementing systemic changes. Jaden and the Justice for All coalition worked tirelessly to ensure the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. They pushed for reforms in emergency services, including mandatory racial equality training and the implementation of clear non-discrimination policies. During a meeting with local government representatives, Jaden and Elijah Thompson presented their proposals. "We want to ensure that all paramedics receive proper training to handle emergency situations without discrimination. We also call for the creation of a monitoring committee to ensure these policies are followed," Elijah stated. The government representatives were receptive to the proposals, recognizing the need for change. "We are committed to ensuring that all citizens receive equal and fair treatment, regardless of their skin color," one representative declared. As the reforms were implemented, Jaden continued to use his voice to inspire others. He participated in conferences, lectures, and community events, sharing his story and encouraging other victims of discrimination to speak out. One day, during a civil rights conference, Jaden met a young woman named Aisha, who had gone through a similar experience. "Your story inspired me, Jaden. I was also a victim of racial discrimination at a hospital, and your fight gave me the courage to seek justice," Aisha said, emotionally. Jaden smiled, touched by her words. "I'm glad my story can help others. Together, we can make a difference and fight for a fairer world." As he continued his journey, Jaden felt strengthened by the community's support and the growing awareness of the need for racial equality. He knew the fight for justice would never be easy, but he was determined to continue, inspiring and leading by example. With each step, Jaden moved closer to his goal of creating a fairer and more equitable system, not just for himself, but for all who faced discrimination. And with the support of his family, friends, and community, he knew that a better future was possible. As the reforms in emergency services began to take effect, the Atlanta community started to feel the first signs of change. Jaden and the Justice for All coalition continued to advocate for justice and equality, actively participating in meetings with local authorities and promoting educational initiatives. One day, Jaden received an invitation to speak at a local school about his experience and the importance of racial equality. Upon arriving at the school, he was greeted with enthusiasm by students and teachers. In the classroom, he found an attentive audience, eager to hear his story. "Thank you all for having me here today," Jaden began, looking out at the eager faces. "I want to share with you not just what happened to me, but why it's important for all of us to stand up against discrimination and fight for equality." The room was silent, every eye on Jaden as he recounted the events of the accident and the subsequent fight for justice. He spoke about the pain of being ignored because of his skin color and the strength he found in his community's support. "But this isn't just my story," he continued. "It's about all of us working together to make sure that everyone is treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. It's about creating a world where our differences are celebrated, not used as a reason to divide us." Jaden's message resonated deeply with the students. Many came up to him after the talk, expressing their support and sharing their own experiences with discrimination. "You've inspired us, Jaden," one student said. "We want to be part of the change." Jaden left the school that day feeling more hopeful than ever. He knew that the road ahead would be long and challenging, but he also knew that he was not alone. With each new ally, the movement for justice and equality grew stronger. In the months that followed, Jaden and the Justice for All coalition continued their work, holding workshops, advocating for policy changes, and ensuring that the voices of the marginalized were heard. The reforms in emergency services began to take hold, and the impact of their efforts could be seen in the improved treatment of all citizens, regardless of race. Jaden's journey had transformed him from a victim of discrimination into a powerful advocate for justice. His story became a beacon of hope for many, a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for what is right. And as he looked toward the future, Jaden knew that he and his community were creating lasting change, one step at a time. Hello, everyone. My name is Jaden Miller, and I'm here to share my experience and the importance of fighting for justice and equality. He began, looking at the young faces before him. "We all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of our skin color." My story is just one example of how discrimination can affect our lives, but it also shows that we can make a difference when we come together. After the talk, a student named Maya raised her hand. "Mr. Miller, how can we help fight discrimination in our community?" Jaden smiled, inspired by the question. "You can start by educating yourselves and others about the effects of discrimination. Get involved in community initiatives, stand up for those who are wronged, and above all, never be afraid to use your voices to fight for justice." Jaden's words resonated in the room, and he could see the determination in the students' eyes. As he left the school, he felt a wave of hope for the future. The next generation was ready to continue the fight for equality. Back at work with the coalition, Jaden and his colleagues began planning a series of workshops and training sessions for Atlanta's first responders. They wanted to ensure that emergency professionals were prepared to treat all victims with the same care and respect. During one of these workshops, Jaden met Ethan, the young first responder who had helped on the day of the accident. "Ethan, it's good to see you here. Thank you for joining us." Ethan smiled shyly. "Thank you, Jaden. After the accident, I realized how much I still need to learn and how important it is to treat everyone equally. I'm here to be part of the change." The workshops were a success, with many first responders expressing gratitude for the opportunity to learn and grow. Jaden felt encouraged to see the transformation happening in his community. As he continued to work tirelessly, Jaden also found time to focus on his own recovery. The physical scars from the accident were healing, but the emotional scars still needed time and care. Kendra, always by his side, offered unconditional love and support. One night, as they walked through the park, Jaden reflected on everything they had been through. Kendra, I don't know what I would have done without you. Your support has given me the strength to keep going. Kendra smiled, holding his hand. We're in this together, Jaden. And I'll be by your side every step of the way. With each new day, Jaden felt more determined to continue his fight. He knew the journey for justice and equality was long, but with the support of his family, friends, and community, he was confident they could achieve a better future for everyone. Jaden's story and the fight of the Justice for All coalition not only transformed Atlanta but also began to attract national attention. Civil rights organizations from across the country started reaching out, wanting to learn from their experiences and replicate their initiatives in other cities. One day, Jaden received a call from a producer of a national television show. Mr. Miller, we'd like to invite you to appear on our show and share your story with a larger audience. We believe your message is incredibly important and can inspire many people. Jaden accepted the invitation, knowing this was an opportunity to raise awareness about racial discrimination and the importance of equality. When he arrived at the studio, he was warmly welcomed by the crew and the host. Jaden, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Your story has touched many hearts, and we're eager to hear more about your journey and the changes you're promoting in Atlanta, the host said as they prepared to start the recording. During the interview, Jaden spoke about the accident, the discrimination he and other victims faced, and the ongoing fight for justice. He emphasized the importance of education and community mobilization to combat inequality. We can't wait for change to happen on its own. We need to be proactive, educate our communities, and push for fair policies. The fight is long, but every step we take brings us closer to a better future, Jaden said, looking directly at the camera. The interview was a success, reaching millions of viewers across the country. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many people expressing their support and desire to get involved in the fight for racial equality. With growing national attention, Jaden and the Justice for All coalition began receiving invitations to speak at conferences and events in other cities. They traveled to places like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, sharing their experiences and inspiring others to take action. At one of these conferences, Jaden met Dr. Angela Ramirez, a renowned civil rights advocate. Jaden, your story is an inspiration. We need more leaders like you who are willing to fight for justice. Let's work together to expand this movement. Jaden eagerly accepted the partnership, knowing that joining forces could have an even greater impact. With each new city they visited, more people joined the cause, creating a national movement for equality and justice. While traveling across the country, Jaden continued to receive messages of support from Atlanta. The community he helped mobilize was stronger than ever, continuing to fight for change and champion equality in all aspects of life. Back in Atlanta, the Justice for All coalition began to see the fruits of their labor. Reforms in emergency services were being successfully implemented, and other cities were starting to adopt similar policies. During a meeting with the mayor of Atlanta, Jaden and Elijah Thompson discussed new initiatives to promote racial equality in other areas of the city. We want to ensure that all sectors, from education to law enforcement, are committed to justice and equality, Elijah said. The mayor agreed, recognizing the importance of the reforms. We are committed to making Atlanta an example of equality and justice for the rest of the country. With the work of the Justice for All coalition, we know we can achieve this. Jaden felt a wave of optimism. This is just one part of the fight. We need to keep working together to ensure these changes are lasting. With the support of local authorities, the coalition launched new educational and training programs for schools and public institutions, promoting awareness about racial discrimination and the importance of equality. The workshops and lectures continued to attract large audiences, demonstrating the community's growing commitment to justice. As the reforms progressed, Jaden also got involved in a personal project he had always wanted to pursue. He and Kendra began planning the creation of a foundation in memory of the victims of the accident, dedicated to supporting racial equality initiatives and providing resources for victims of discrimination. This foundation will be a legacy for all who have suffered injustices and a platform to promote change, Jaden said as he and Kendra discussed the project's details. The foundation was launched with an emotional ceremony, bringing together supporters and community members. Jaden, alongside Kendra, gave an inspiring speech. This foundation is a symbol of hope and resilience. We will continue fighting for justice and ensure that the voices of the victims are always heard. With the foundation up and running, Jaden felt a renewed energy to continue his mission. He knew the journey was far from over, but every step he took was a significant move in the right direction. The fight for justice and racial equality transformed Jaden's life and profoundly impacted the community of Atlanta and beyond. The Justice for All coalition continued to grow, inspiring others to join the cause and fight for a better future. In a ceremony at Atlanta City Hall, Jaden was honored for his contributions to the city. Jaden Miller, your courage and determination are an example to all of us. You have shown us that change is possible when we stand united, the mayor said, presenting Jaden with an award of recognition. Jaden accepted the award with humility. This honor is not just mine. It belongs to everyone who has come together to fight for justice. Our journey is far from over, but together we can achieve great things. As Jaden continued his mission, he constantly remembered the support and love of his family. Kendra, always by his side, was his constant source of strength and inspiration. You've made a huge difference, Jaden. Never forget that, Kendra said one night as they walked through the park, reflecting on all they had accomplished. I couldn't have done any of this without you, Kendra. Your support means everything to me, Jaden replied, holding her hand tenderly. In addition to his activities in Atlanta, Jaden began working on a book about his experience, wanting to share his story with an even larger audience. He hoped his story would be a source of inspiration and a call to action for all who read it. As he wrote, Jaden reflected on the highs and lows of his journey, recalling the moments of pain and the victories they had achieved. He knew the book would be a way to immortalize the fight for justice and ensure that future generations continued the struggle. One day, while revising the chapters of the book, Jaden received a call from Dr. Angela Ramirez. Jaden, I have excellent news. We've secured a substantial donation for the foundation. This will allow us to expand our programs and reach even more people. That's incredible, Dr. Ramirez. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication. We'll use these resources to make a real difference, Jaden replied, feeling a wave of hope and enthusiasm. With the donation, the foundation expanded its efforts, offering scholarships to minority students, organizing community events, and providing legal support to victims of discrimination. The impact was profound and lasting, strengthening the community and promoting equality. As the foundation's activities grew, Jaden continued to work closely with community leaders and local authorities. They implemented new training policies for public employees, ensuring that all sectors of the city reflected the values of justice and equality. One night, while attending a community event, Marcus approached Jaden and Kendra. Jaden, I want you to know how much you've inspired me. Seeing you fight for justice made me realize that we all have a role to play. I've decided to run for local office to continue this fight. Jaden smiled, deeply moved. That's amazing, Marcus. I'm proud of you. We need more people committed to justice in government. You will make a difference. As the event continued, Jaden reflected on the power of community and the importance of each person in making a difference. He knew the journey was far from over, but with each step, They were closer to a more just and equal world. With his family, friends, and community by his side, Jaden was prepared to keep fighting for justice, knowing that every action, no matter how small, contributed to a better future. Jaden's story was not just about a young man who faced discrimination and fought for justice, but about a community that came together to transform the world around them.